No, they're not up yet, Dee. I talked to Rachel over the weekend, and she's working with Club Runner to get a separate spot designated on the website.
Okay.
So it's coming.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. All right. But anyway, they'll be up there. So if you had to miss one of our first two, you can always go there and see it once they're set to go. The others tonight, of course, we're going to hear about insurance, and we're going to hear about conducting a meeting. That comes from the conducting a meeting part will come from chapter 3 of your president's book, and I'll refer to that again later. You don't have your manual there, don't worry about it, because I'm only going to refer to it. You can go back later on and read anything there. So that's fine. Tomorrow night, we're going to get a little more in. That's our last training session, and that we're going to hear about risk management. Rotary Club Central, Tara's going to take you all on to Rotary Club Central. And so if you, tomorrow night, will bring some of your goals with you, you'll be able to, hopefully, right, Tara, be able to put some in maybe as the session is going on. If not, certainly right after the session, since you're already know what to do, or since you'll know what to do after that, you can go ahead and put some of your goals in. All goals are due to be input by June 30th. So that's your last day, but don't wait till June 30th. Try to get them in before then, because a lot of other things are determined by that. This year is unusual, no doubt, but still it's important that you have your goals put in. Remember, for membership, you only need one goal. For your foundation, you're looking at an annual fund goal, and then you're also looking at a polio goal for Polio Plus. Please remember what I said. If you didn't make your goal last year, please don't lower the goal. Challenge yourselves to still attain that goal, and maybe even go a little more than that. And then and also tomorrow night, then, to end everything, we'll have Kevin. Is Kevin here tonight? Not yet? Okay. Anyway, Kevin Dorland from Cassidy is going to be talking to you tomorrow night, and he's the one. He was scheduled to do his report, or to do this. I'm sorry, at it's the last thing you would have heard at Pets on that Saturday afternoon. Had we made it till then, but you'll be able to hear that tonight. So tomorrow night. I'm sorry, that's tomorrow night. Okay. Well, we are, I think, going to go ahead then. Peggy, we have you set to go. Oh, just a second.
Before we begin, everyone who is not speaking should mute their microphones. Yep. It's located in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. That'll help eliminate background noise.
Yep. And I just want to make note, Deb Krantz is here. This is her first time with us. Is this your first Zoom, Deb, or have you been on several?
I've been on several.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great to have you. Okay, so
Thank you.
Randy, we'll go ahead and hand it over to you then.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. I just want to say a good evening, everybody, and hopefully everybody is healthy and you're staying safe. And I just want to say thank you for all what you do for Rotary, especially in your clubs, and for taking a leadership role and being with us here tonight. And with that, I'm going to introduce Peggy. I think I first met Peggy about a year ago when I was up at her club. And she is the district insurance representative. And she's going to talk to you about making sure your insurance is up to date. Go ahead, Peggy.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like you have a whole lot of choice of whether your insurance is up to date. You just have it. It's provided to you. So what I have included here, Connie sent out some emails, is some of the information that's on the website that you actually have access to. And it tells you on the second page, it's the one that says the policy coverage descriptions, how you get to the Gallagher Insight site. It gives you it gives you the username and the password, and that site has all of the information that I'm going over with you tonight. I don't know if it's something you want to go over in detail, but if you just have that general description, at the moment, that's probably the most that you need, and it just tells you that you have general liability, you're paying for that every year. And you have directors and officers employment practices liability. So it's automatically included. And what I found interesting is actually who all is insured under this. Obviously, I've expected the Rotary Club and the Rotary District, but this is also covering the RILA. It covers the Youth Exchange Program, which that would be pretty important to have liability for that. So on that second page of that summary that I sent is where the contact information is if you needed to get a hold of Gallagher. That's the broker information and resources, has everything there for you. Then the rest of it is a bunch of slides that I really don't want to go over in each one, and I don't think you would want me to go over each one. But the one thing that they talked about in slide 4, which I think is important to know this, is that your general liability responds to third-party claims. A third party is not an insured under this insurance policy. Rotary clubs and districts, as well as Rotarians or volunteers, are not considered third parties. It's other people that sue us is the third party. The next thing is slide 7 talks about Rotarians and volunteers. So this provides coverage for not only Rotarians, but volunteers that we may have that come to help out that are not actually Rotarians. Now, it's not covering Rotarians that are a volunteer if they got hurt. You have to have your own health insurance for that type of thing. Again, it's back to liability. It's very important that Rotarians have to know that they need their own coverage. They need their own health insurance. They need their own auto insurance. It's also important, I think, to know that it never hurts to have any additional coverage you possibly can get. I happen to sell insurance, so I know that we sell what's called a personal injury rider, and my guess is a lot of other insurance companies do that as well. So what it does is it broadens the coverage that you have. It gives you coverage for libel and defamation of character, which your standard liability policy, which would come from your homeowner's policy or your renter's insurance policy, is not going to pick up unless you have that type of rider. Ours happens to also include it if you have a personal liability umbrella policy. I don't know if you are familiar with what that is. It's just increasing the amount of coverage that you have, but with the particular policy that I sell, it also broadens the coverage that you have. So I think it's very important to be looking at your own insurance as well and explaining that to your members, that it's very important that they be adequately insured. The directors and officers liability, that's where having the definition of slander and defamation of character is very important to have. And I couldn't see where that was actually written out. And so I did communicate with Gallagher. You can't talk to anybody there. I don't know if it's because of what's going on now. So everything was by email. And they said that that was covered. It's covered under another portion. It's covered under advertising. I didn't exactly understand what she meant by that. But like I said, I didn't have anyone to actually talk to get a definition of that. So the directors and officers is geared more towards their individual behavior as opposed to general liability, where if somebody sued you for, a slip and fall or somebody getting sick, that type of thing. Directors and officers, I'm thinking, would be particularly important if, let's say, you had a member that you didn't think should be a member anymore. I think that's where the libel and slander really is an important thing to have. Personally, I wouldn't be on a board if they didn't have directors and officers liability. And in this note, they says that's very true. A lot of people wouldn't serve because they don't want to risk their, losing their own assets or jeopardizing their own assets. Then another thing they talk about is liquor liability. For one thing, we actually do have it. Oh, that was nice to know. And we don't have the coverage, there's no coverage at all, liability coverage for the owner of a vehicle. So if a Rotarian is driving a vehicle, it's a Rotary related event, that liability is still coming from that Rotarian's vehicle, not coming from the general liability policy that we have. The other thing that is covered that I thought was interesting, I didn't know about that, is it does have coverage for abuse and molestation. It's coverage by exclusion, then it doesn't say it's not excluded, so therefore it's covered. I think that's probably pretty important to have for RILA. Let's see what else they were saying. Okay, this would be the thing if you are ever having to provide a certificate of insurance for liquor liability, is that ours is a blanket. So if somebody wants a separate policy for general liability and a separate policy for liquor liability, that's not going to fly. You can't do that. As a general rule, anytime someone is wanting you to modify a policy or list, why can't we have it a little bit different? You can't do that. It has to be the policy that we're issued. If you have any questions about that, that would be a good time. I guess you could call me if you wanted to, but you could call that Gallagher site too if you're ever in a position where you have to provide a certificate of insurance. And they talk quite a bit about how they can supply you with a certificate of insurance. Don't think that you have to have a certificate of insurance anytime somebody is having an event. Don't do it unless they ask you for it. You don't have to have it unless they're asking you for it, but it's not unusual for someone to be asking for a certificate of insurance in my world, but I don't know what it's like in, you know, if you're having a Rotary event or how often it occurs with a Rotary club. The other thing, and I have a feeling, this is a new position. I don't think they ever had this before, correct, Randy? Correct, Tom? The insurance position? It's brand new for the district.
Yeah, I think this Rotary year was brand new.
Yeah, so I kind of get the impression that it's because they've had the premiums are going up, probably because, as we always say, there's more claims. So that affects premiums, and I'm sure that's why they wanted to bring this position in. I can see where a big one might be that's occurring is with social media. You have to be careful of copyright infringement. You have to be careful of putting pictures of people on your websites that you don't have the information for. So I think that's somebody that whoever you have in charge of your website or your publicity would be aware of that. I think most people are, but I can see where maybe that's becoming more of a problem with Facebook and that type of thing. It's kind of a new one on top of the old slip and falls and food poisoning people. So the next one would be totally irrelevant unless you're planning on having more than 25,000 people to your event. If you do, I would suggest you not call me, but you call that Gallagher. I don't know really exactly what you're going to have to do, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. So that might want to rethink that too. That was that one that I wanted. Okay, fireworks, don't do it because you have to have your own policy. Good luck finding that for 50 million. No, 5 million, no, piece of cake. But that doesn't mean, I thought this was kind of interesting, that if, you know, the local city or something would like some donations to provide fireworks, you can do that. Just don't sign the contract for it. Let's see what else we have. No aircraft, no flying around here. And I'm sure most of you are probably aware that this is a general liability policy, so it's not covering theft of money, no crimes. It's not going to cover anything like that. Property. I don't know if any of the clubs have bonded people, but this policy is not going to do that. And this is only for Rotarians. You can't say, okay, don't worry about it, Lions. You can help us out with this project. You're going to have coverage too. It doesn't work that way. And you want to be real careful before you're signing contracts and before you do get your certificate of liability to find out which you're covered for. Again, that would be contacting that Gallagher site that is probably the most important pages that you have. There's a lot of things here. They talk about slip and falls and property damage. They talk about if you have an event, making sure that everybody has insurance so that it doesn't come back on Rotary. That can probably be easier said than done. You do a craft show, it's pretty hard to make sure that the guy or girl that's making the pot holders actually carries their own liability insurance. So I don't know how that works, but that would be a reason of, it wasn't our fault, it was their fault. We have their insurance and we have a certificate. That would be a case of requiring that they give you a certificate. I don't know if people go that far. I've never heard of that, but anyway. Let's see. Okay, and then the last page about all of the resources, that is all on the second page of that general description that Connie sent out. So that is all of the information quickly that I wanted to run through. All of these slides actually have a narrative that go with them. If you're so inclined to read it all, they're not bad. They're pretty good. It's layman's language. It's pretty understandable. But that is what I was planning on covering, Randy. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, Peggy, Jeff here. So hypothetical question, would coverages only extend if we have an official Rotary type event versus, let's say as an example, we have 4 or 5 Rotarians that are helping another community organization with their event. So it's not really a quote unquote Rotary event. We're just kind of helping. Whatever might arise out of that event would, just because we're Rotarians.
Well, it's my understanding that you would have that because you're Rotarians. But it also gets back to what I was saying to begin with. Also make sure you have your own adequate insurance for yourself.
Right.
You know, the big thing there is, and that's with any liability insurance, is that you need to pay for defense. So you could be totally not liable, but you have to pay for somebody to defend you, to show you that you weren't liable. So I think in that, if you were officially acting as a Rotarian, that you would have that general liability, but to cover all your bases, you want to make sure you are carrying adequate liability yourself.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You were mentioning that there was a narrative that accompanies the material that you were just going through, and I noticed that of the 3 documents that I received from Connie, that one of them is a PowerPoint and the other 2 are PDFs, and I'm wondering if there is also a PowerPoint of the insurance information, because the PDF doesn't have any narrative accompanying it.
Well, I talked to Connie about that this morning because I realized that all you were getting was the PowerPoint presentation and not the narrative. So I sent the copy to Connie today that has the narrative with it.
Okay.
So if you would like a copy of that, is that correct, Connie, that you could send it to Eric?
Yeah, that's correct. Anyone who wants it, I'll be happy to send it out. It's a number of pages. Of course, you don't have to print it, But I'd be happy to send it to you, Red, and anyone else who would like it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, other questions?
Let me ask a question. Is Bob Chadwick still on the call?
Yes.
I was just leaving, but I'm still here.
But Bob's going to talk about risk management tomorrow. And in the topics that you might mention, Bob, is there anything that Peggy either said was not covered or said is covered under the insurance policy?
My belief is, and from my understanding the insurance policy, Peggy did a great job of covering the insurance policy. Tomorrow, we won't spend a lot of time on the insurance policy, although it's very vital to risk management, but we will spend a lot of time on how do we plan for what could possibly go wrong.
That's great, because let me tell you, when you least expect it, something will happen. And if you're not prepared or have no place to turn, it's pretty hard to get through. It's pretty hard for a club to get through. So even though I think for me personally, it's hard to understand. I'm not great with insurance and liability things. I know I'm covered myself, but as far as what Rotary, so that was when we had the incident. I wasn't joking about the cow. When we had the cow patty bingo and the cow got loose and ran across I-27, and we had to chase him down, and the poor cow died of exhaustion. So anyway, but we learned a lot about insurance at that time, but it came at a cost. And I told you that we had to do some unusual things, like write a condolence note to the family who's, and we did repair out of our, or I'm sorry, we reimbursed the family the cost of, you wouldn't believe it was just a calf and it was expensive. So, but we did reimburse the family, even though they told us we didn't need to. We just felt it was the right thing to do. But again, we knew nothing about insurance or liability or anything. And so fortunately, we have a couple of members who knew a little bit, knew enough to know to get a hold of somebody else.
I think that's the most important thing. That overview that they provided is the most important thing you can have.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks, Peggy. That was great. Thank you. Okay, Randy.
Okay. Our next speaker is Connie. And you may know Connie as the district secretary, but I know Connie as the lady one of the ladies at Pets who does Purple Pinky. And I first met Connie, I believe it was when I was club president in 2014, and you were doing Purple Pinky in Kalamazoo at that time. So I think that's my first time of meeting you. And Connie has a lot of different things going for her, and one of them is she's a professional registered parliamentarian. And if you want to know anything at all about how to run a meeting or Robert's Rules of Orders, or I'm sure there's other things that I'm not thinking about, Connie. So I'm going to turn it over to you. So
okay,
go ahead.
thank you. The dangerous time to talk about parliamentary procedure is after lunch, and I don't think after dinner is much better, but we'll give it a try. All of us belong to organizations in addition to Rotary, and I think it's very important that we understand and learn, what our rights are as members, not only to run a meeting, but to participate in a meeting. So this evening, I'm going to share my screen, first of all, and go through the PowerPoint that I sent to you. Get this up. There we go. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about conducting effective meetings. I kind of think of you as the maestro or the conductor for a meeting. I'm going to review some basic principles and how to plan your board meetings, And then we'll talk a little bit about club meetings and getting it done and making it fun. And every club has different ways that they do that. And we can share some of that. And if we have time, I've downloaded some questions that we can take a poll and answer anonymously and see what our perception is about some basic principles of parliamentary procedure. So with that, let's get started. So parliamentary procedure is really based on rights. It's based on the right of the majority. And when I ask what the right of the majority is, well, you've heard the phrase majority rules. Well, in many instances, majority does rule. The majority usually makes the decision, except in some circumstances where a larger percentage of vote is required. Most things take a majority to approve. The minority, because even though they don't get their way, they have the right to talk about what they want to do. So they have the right of debate. They have the right to speak to an issue and try and persuade you to their way of thinking. The rights of individual members. We don't think about it too much, but there are some basic rights of membership. The first of which is the right to attend meetings. We don't think about that too much because I can go to a Rotary club at any club in our district or anywhere in the world, and we're welcomed because we're Rotarians. But I dare not step into a meeting of an Optimist Club or a Lions Club without invitation. So that right of membership is the right to be there, the right to participate in that meeting. You also have the right to make motions, to offer suggestions of what the club might do, the right to speak in debate, to get your point of view known and either persuade or dissuade others from their thinking. You have the right to vote, to actually make the decision. You have the right to nominate people for office, and we do that because we like to get the presidents-elect or president-elect nominees established in our Rotary clubs so that we have that continuity of service. And then also you have the right to hold office, and for those of you who are going to be president, that's one of your basic rights, is to hold that office. And when you consider parliamentary procedure, it's all of these basic rights together working in unison. So basically, things are handled in a meeting by a motion. So, you get the attention of the presiding officer some way, shape, or form. You either raise your hand, stand up, whatever the case might be, and then you offer a motion. The operative words are I move. It isn't, I'd like to, I think we should, maybe we oughta, or it isn't so moved because so what? It's a proposal. It's like, I propose that this is what we do. The word resolved comes with a resolution, and the difference between a motion and a resolution is that a resolution is in writing, and it begins with the word resolved instead of I move. So it's basically a motion in writing. I always had a little trouble with the understanding of why do we use that word, I move. I'm sitting here or I'm standing here, I'm not moving anywhere. But like much of parliamentary procedure, the genesis is in the English Parliament. And in the English Parliament, they had a side table where all the pending bills, legislation was stacked, ready to be considered. And so when someone said, I move, they would physically move that document from the side table to the main table for discussion. So that's where the words come from. And then it made a little bit more sense to me. So the second step is another member seconds the motion. Says second, or I second the motion. What I hear a lot in our state is support. And when I travel around the country teaching parliamentary procedure, people look at me like they don't understand what I'm saying because they don't use that word. And I'm not sure, I always tell them it must be in the Michigan water. We're surrounded by those Great Lakes. Support gives the indication that you are in agreement, but you don't have to be in agreement to second the motion. I might be adamantly opposed to something, but want to get it on the floor, discuss it, and vote it down once and for all. So it does not have to be a second in approval. What happens if you don't get a second? Well, if you're the presiding officer, you should ask if there is a second. And if no one comes forth with that second, usually what I hear people say is it died for lack of support. Well, it didn't die because it never lived. The second only indicates to the presiding officer that more than one person thinks this is important enough to discuss and vote on. That's the indicator. So if you can't get a second, even when you ask for one, what you should say is, since there is no second, the motion will not be considered. I think that makes a lot more sense than it died for lack of support. Then the chair should state the question and repeat it. It is moved and seconded, and then repeat the motion. It's important in your role as the presiding officer to make sure that, be it the club or your board of directors, understands what is going to be discussed and voted on. So it isn't the first time that you'll be saying that, you'll say it again before you take the vote. But this is the step that comes before the debate. And the members debate the motion. They have to obtain the floor. Usually what happens is people just start speaking. Not a problem, but if you have a very large meeting, you want to make sure that there is some methodology for people to obtain the floor, sometimes having to go to a microphone or something of the like. So that the other thing is you have to observe some protocol in that nobody gets to talk the second time until everybody's had the first opportunity. So there's no monopolization of that debate time by one person just responding to every time somebody says something, jumping in again. You have to give everyone the opportunity.
Connie?
Yes.
I just want to say there's some background noise from somebody.
Yeah, I'm hearing it too. I'm not sure who it's from, but
Yeah.
if you have the ability to mute your microphone, please do so.
Whether you're on a telephone or on the video, please mute.
Thank you, Randy. Okay. So after the debate is completed, then the chair puts the question, that is, takes the vote. Once again, repeating what the question is. So the question is on the adoption of the motion that, whatever we do. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Tell them what to say. Don't say those in favor and then they don't know, should they say yes? Should they say aye? What should we say? And many times they'll say, those in favor say aye, those opposed. And then what do I say if I'm opposed? Do I say nay or do I say no? What do I say? It's always important to let them know what they should be saying. Please don't say same sign, because the same sign is aye. And if I'm against it, I don't want to say aye. I want to say no. So just kind of guide your members through that process. And once you get the hang of just always using that phraseology, it will come easily and you don't even have to think about it. And then once the vote is taken, you have to tell them what that means. So the chair announces the result of the vote. Which side has it? The ayes have it or the noes have it? And what does that mean? It's adopted or it was lost. Adopted, carried, approved, they all mean the same thing. Whatever you're comfortable in using, just use that word consistently. And what does the effect of that vote? We approved a donation, so that means that the treasurer will write the check for that amount to provide to that entity. And then where applicable, announcement of the next item of business. So it runs pretty smoothly for you to get through all of that information in a manner that allows for everyone to participate, but yet doesn't spend an unnecessary amount of time in doing so. So planning the board meeting, which is probably the most of monthly board meeting, probably I know that in Shepherd, they're all a member of the board. They don't have committees. They all decide on everything. But when you prepare for your board meeting, you want to prepare an agenda. Look at the agenda and the minutes of the previous meeting. Was there anything that was started that was postponed until this meeting, or that some committee was supposed to report on for this meeting? Add that to your agenda. Take a look at your bylaws every now and then, and most of you need to update your bylaws, but that's another topic. The bylaws will tell you what meeting you have to have the nominating committee report, or what meeting you will have your annual meeting. What meeting will your elections be held at? All of those things are in your bylaws. And then you may have received some correspondence that you want to have provided to the club. Maybe it's from Rotary International, maybe it's from our district governor. Perhaps it's something like was sent out, I believe yesterday, from the district governor and the Rotary Foundation chair about the possibility of using some of your district designated funds for another purpose. That kind of information would be correspondence that you would want to share with the club. The secretary reads the correspondence. So if you're going to have that, it would basically kind of be under the secretary's report, whatever that correspondence would be. So determine you have a quorum. Your quorum is determined in your bylaws. It's either a finite number or it's a percentage of your club. I prefer the number because then I don't have to know today we have 49 members and what's a majority of that. But it's contained within your bylaws. It's going to either say a majority or it's going to say a number or a third. Whatever your bylaws say, that's what it is. What do you do if you don't have a quorum? Well, Connie says you can farm. Parliamentarians seem to use a lot of mnemonics, and this is one that I kind of like. You can fix the time to which to adjourn. That is, you can continue that meeting to another day and time, so long as it's before your next regularly scheduled meeting. So if there's something that occurs, we kind of get snowstorms every now and then, and we don't have a quorum, or other things intervene. And maybe there are some things, items of business that we need to take care of before the next monthly meeting. So it's important to reschedule so that you can take up those items. You can simply adjourn the meeting. It's not going to happen today. We're not going to get the number we need. We're just going to adjourn and we'll meet again next month. We could take a recess. Maybe wait it out, kind of wait another 5 or 10 minutes, see if we get a quorum. Or you can take measures to obtain a quorum. Get on the phone, call someone. In a past life, I was the city clerk in Bay City, and we once needed one commissioner for a vote on an important topic, and his court had not yet plowed. We sent a snowplow out to get him. So we took some measures to make sure that we had that quorum. If you don't have a quorum, you do have to have minutes. Your secretary should be writing minutes that say you called the meeting to order at whatever time a quorum wasn't present and which of these 4 actions you took, so that you have a record that you had attempted to hold that meeting that you had given notice of. I like to use a standard agenda. Again, we're into the mnemonics, Mrs. Sun. This is an easy way to put together an agenda. I did provide this to my club a number of years ago and they like it. It's easy to do. It's the order of business. Sometimes you have a whole lot of business to take care of. In what order do I put it in? So the MRSSUN stands for the minutes, reports of officers, board and standing committees, special committee reports, special orders, unfinished business and general orders, and new business. And I'll go through each one of those. So minutes are approved in chronological order. So the oldest minutes are approved first. So if for some reason you didn't get around to approving the minutes the last time, you would go to the oldest minutes first to go forward. A common misconception is you don't need a motion to approve minutes. All you have to do is ask, are there any corrections to the minutes? You don't have to ask for additions, deletions, or corrections. Just, are there any corrections to the minutes? And if there are no corrections, all you have to say are the minutes are approved as presented, as mailed, as corrected, as distributed, whatever the case might be. Just very much an easier way to do it. In fact, Robert's Rules of Order recommends that you do not have motions to approve minutes. It's a hard thing to get over.
Connie, can I ask a question?
Yep, sure.
In regards to minutes, in your opinion or your understanding, when is the best time to send minutes out, Connie? Right after the board?
The best time to prepare them is right after. The best time to send them out is before.
Send them just before the next board meeting then?
Right, so that they, minutes serve three purposes. They remind members of what happened, right? So in reviewing those minutes for the office, for the board, they're going to take a look, hopefully read through those minutes and see what did we handle last month? What did we start talking about doing? What needs to be done? And it kind of refreshes their memory where they are in the whole grand scheme of things. If I'm the secretary and I still do take shorthand, but I read my shorthand much better when I do my minutes quickly rather than wait a longer period of time to interpret my markings.
Connie, is there value if the minutes are sent out immediately? Does that give those in attendance a record of what they agreed to do between now and the next meeting?
That would, yeah, if there is a lot of direction within the minutes, that's a good idea, but they do not become the minutes of your organization until they're approved.
Okay.
They're only the secretary's draft until that time. When you approve them at a meeting, now they are the minutes.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions? I'd be happy just to interrupt me. I'm happy to answer them. Going on, officers report in the order listed in the bylaws. Usually that's president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, or president-elect, secretary, treasurer. If you're at the annual meeting, your board of directors would report and let the membership know what they've done throughout the year. Standing committees report in the order they're listed in the bylaws. Standing committees are of a continuing nature. You always have those committees and they would report in that order. Special committees report in the order they were established. So if you establish, let's say, a committee to work on activities for World Polio Day, and then you established a committee to work on the 4th of July celebration, the Polio Day, which is in October, committee would report before the 4th of July committee would report. So it's in the order that they're established. And a special committee ceases to exist when their final report is given. So they're not of a continuing nature. If you find that you have something that started as a special committee, but you have always had that committee, add it to your bylaws as a regular standard committee. Special orders are items that were required by the bylaws to be handled at a particular meeting. So in other words, this is where your election of officers would be. It would be a special order for that meeting. The other way you can get to a special order is by postponing something by a 2/3 vote for a specific time, making sure that your people will be there at the time that you want them to be. And you can even interrupt business to make sure that happens. Unfinished business are items that were pending when the last meeting adjourned. So you had your agenda. If you didn't get through the whole agenda and there are still items to go, those become unfinished business from at this particular meeting, or items that were started but not completed. There is no old business on an agenda. Old is over and done. Unfinished is what is yet to be completed. And then you have general orders, and those are the things that might have been postponed from the last meeting. I move to postpone to the next regular meeting. That's a general order, and it comes after unfinished business. You don't ask if there's unfinished business. You should know. All you have to do is look at those minutes from the prior meeting. And then new business, any item of business that hasn't been considered before. So that's how you put together an agenda for a meeting. And all of your items of business fit into one of those slots, and you can easily put together the agenda. Your club meetings are a little bit different. You have that call to order with the bell, right? You ring the bell, start the meeting. You may have some opening ceremonies. Just remember that if you have a prayer, an invocation, it comes before any kind of national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance. It's God before country. If you remember that, the invocation would come first. I have not yet convinced my club to do it that way, but it's something we're working on. So this is the order: invocation, national anthem. If you're a singing club and you do that, Pledge of Allegiance, if you're going to do it, say the whole thing, Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. A lot of words, but that's what it is. And then you might have an inspiration. Some clubs recite the four-way test, or maybe a mission or vision statement that's inspirational. You might have introduction of visitors and some Rotary information. Some clubs do a Rotary moment, Rotary minute, whatever the case might be. Some clubs are fining clubs. They fine for different things. Our club does not, but we do have happy bucks. If you want to share something personal or family or any of the organizations to which we belong, pay $1, it goes to Polio Plus, and we get to toot that horn a little bit at the meeting. And some clubs are singing clubs. You have your program. Either you have a programmer, one member of the club, or the members of your club alternate providing a program. You might have good of the order, and then your announcements. Again, you might have the program after announcements, and then the adjournment, and you're done. Yay! You know. Any suggestions about what, or anyone want to add what you do at your meeting that really makes it fun? I'm sure they are. I've been to a number of the clubs. I know they're fun. Okay.
Well, I got
Connie,
something
one
to
question
mention
I would
there.
have, with clubs now meeting virtually on Zoom as an example, how important is it to maintain the structure that you would normally have in a face-to-face? We're kind of stumbling through that right now in our own club.
You have to find your way. It's not going to be right for everyone, however you're doing it. And like you said, you're stumbling through. Some things work, some things don't. You know, there's no tried and true. We're in different times, you know. And Red, you had something you
Well, I just wanted to mention that what Kathy introduced this year was when we're doing the four-way test, which we do at the end of the meeting. After you get to the fourth of the four-way test, she always adds, "And will it be fun?" And
okay.
so I like the way that ends.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try something tonight. Let's hope it works. I loaded some questions in a poll, and I'll put the poll up. You can respond with your mouse to click true or false, and then we'll see how you did with them. Okay, the first one is regarding making a motion. To make a motion, begin with the words "I move." Is that true or false?
True.
You have to share your screen, or, oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay.
Look at that. Look at all those people that know that answer. Yay. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning, and so people were listening. I'm happy.
Well, Connie, where can we see the results?
Oh, I'm seeing them. I'm sorry. I'm seeing 20 responded, and it's 100%. Let's see, end polling, and there we go. So 22 answered, and it's 100%. Anonymously, you've answered that question. So I'm going to share the results. There they are.
All right.
Okay, let's try the next one. Yeah, I want to continue. in polling. Well, now I'm, say, trying to get to the next one, and I'm not sure how I'm doing it. Polling is closed. Oh, there we go. Here's the second one. You do not have to be in favor of a motion to second it. True or false?
True.
Hey, no cheating.
Oh, that
You were
was
listening then too, right? Okay. And I'm going to end the polling. And I'm going to share the results. We at 4% said false, but it's true. You do not have to be in favor of a motion to second it.
It was you, Jeff.
All right, let's try another one. The chair should restate the motion before members debate it. And I am going to end the polling. I will share the results. We had, someone said no, someone said false. But that's true. The chair should restate the motion before the members debate it. Okay? Make sure that you let your members know what they're voting on. Oops. Let's see, we'll go back to my polls. Speaking in debate. A member may not speak against his own motion. True or false? We didn't talk about that one. Okay, I'm going to end the polling. And I'm going to share the results. 4 people said it was true, and 19 people said it was false. And the 4 people are right. You cannot speak against your own motion.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Is it not okay to discuss alternative views and then say one might think about it this way, but there are reasons why
Yeah,
that would be wrong?
if you made the motion, you are supposed to be an advocate for it. You are not supposed to be speaking against what you propose.
Right.
But others can. And if there's an amendment to your motion,
Well, if
you can vote, you can speak against that. But if you make the motion, you cannot speak against it.
Well, is it speaking against a motion to present a possible argument that might be raised and then refute that argument in defense of your motion?
No, that's up to somebody else to bring it up and you to refute it. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
Okay.
Connie, having just watched Fiddler on the Roof yesterday, I'm reminded of Reptevia. On the other hand,
Okay, I didn't watch that, so let me get
on
the
the other
next
hand,
question up here. Okay. Chair takes a voice vote by saying those in favor say aye, and then pause, and then those opposed say no. Then the result of the vote is announced. True or false? And I'm going to end the polling and share the results. You got that one loud and clear. Thank you very much. Oops. I got to get the right screen. That's the first time I've used this, so sorry about that. Polls. And now I can't get the poll. Well, I'm so sorry. It was going okay. Can you see this one? Are you seeing the poll?
No,
No,
How about now?
now it
now we
is.
do.
Okay. A member may vote against her own motion. True or false?
Hmm.
A lot of indecision here. Okay, I'm going to end the polling and share the results. 14 people said she can, and 9 people said she cannot. I say a woman has a prerogative of changing her mind, but that works for men as well. You cannot speak against your own motion, but you can vote against it.
I would say that would be the whole reason for having a debate on the floor.
Yeah, that's the whole reason for having debate, that the reasoning was so impelling that you changed your mind and voted no. You can do that. You just can't speak against it. Okay, let's try another one. We're almost finished. Okay, launch polling. Majority means more than half. True or false?
This looks like a trick question.
We'll find out.
I'm just glad it's anonymous voting.
And that's why it is. Okay, I'm going to end polling and share the results. 21 said yes and 2 said no. There's a misconception that majority means +1. Majority simply means more than half. I had 9 commissioners on city council. Half of 9 is 4.5. 1 more than 4.5 is 5.5. Do I round it up? Do I drop the half? Do I tell someone they're half there? You know, if you remember that majority simply means more than half. Doesn't have to be 1 more than half, just more than half. And we're getting to the 8 o'clock hour. Let's see. Let's do this one. A 2/3 vote cannot be taken by voice. True or false? So if you think it can't, it's true. If you think it cannot, it's it's false. Cannot be taken by voice or can be? I'm going to end polling. We're pretty evenly split here. 12 said true and 10 said false. When you take a majority vote, you're only listening to the volume of the vote, of the voices. So if you're in a very large room, you never want to take a vote by voice because the no's will always sound louder. But on a 2/3 vote, how on earth can I tell I heard 2 voices for every one? It's just not possible. You have to do something visual. They have to stand up, and now in the with ADA, maybe they have to raise their hand or they have a voting card. There has to be something visual in order to take that 2/3 vote. So you can do a quick count of, yeah, that looks like a lot of people, and no, that wasn't very many. I think we've got 2/3. And if you remember that the definition of 2/3 is at least twice as many in favor as are opposed, you've got the 2/3 without getting out your calculator. So if there are 17 members and the vote is 9-8, you know that's a majority. It's more than half. If it's 10-7, it sounds pretty good, but we're not there yet. 11-6 sounds even better, but no. 11 is not at least twice as many as 6. It's not till we get to a vote of 12-5 that we actually have a 2/3 vote. And how on earth could you do that verbally? So I'm going to stop the sharing. And thank you for your participation in it. And I hope that what I provided to you was helpful. And if you have any questions ever, don't hesitate to call me or give me an email. I'm more than happy to answer those questions. Thanks for your participation this evening.
Thank you, Connie. That was very good. I've listened to this presentation how many times? 5, 6, and I still learn something new every time we go through it. So thank you for doing this for us. I think this will help some of you as you, especially if you've never actually been the person in charge of a meeting before, the chairperson or the president. This is new. This is some of these things are really very, very helpful and should help you feel a little more comfortable standing up there in front of your whole group. And again, Connie's great about answering questions. If you email her or give her a call, she'll be happy to help you. She helps the district out all the time, keeping us on straight and narrow at our executive committee meetings. So we thank her for that. In that chapter 3 in your president's manual, which by the way, if you've lost your manual already, it is available at the Rotary, on the Rotary website. You can always download it from that. There's one more thing in that chapter 3 about running your meeting, and that is the governor's visit. Every governor has to visit every club in his or her district. And so that's one of the things Randy will have to do. He'll be coming to your club. And I believe most of them are signed up now, Randy, for the date of their club visit or not?
Oh, no, I only have a couple so far.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was going to kind of wait a little bit now with the COVID-19 stuff going on. So
Yep. So we see how things go. Yep. That
Yeah.
sounds good. Or you might be doing them by Zoom.
yeah, who knows?
We laugh, huh? But anyway, but it is nice. And can I just tell you this from experience? If you give the governor a certain date for him or her to be at your meeting, please make sure you're having the meeting, okay? Don't let him show up and have nobody there. And governors, incoming governors, a little hint here, get a hold of the president a day or two before you're supposed to visit a club and make sure that they're meeting and that they're expecting you. So again, that happened to me. So you want to make sure that you, I didn't go because I called the night before, but just make sure that you're doing that. You want to do something special when the governor comes because it's a fun time. I know there's that joke out there about people don't like to go to the club meetings when they know the governor's coming, but that's not true in our district, is it? Say no. Okay. All right. So yeah, do something special. That's always nice. It makes the governor feel really welcomed. And then later, Randy already asked you about this, and that is if you're having some kind of special presentation or for example, Bay City had their 100th anniversary the year that I was governor, and they invited me to that. That was really nice. Those kinds of, or when the Paul Harris statue was presented and dedicated, I was invited to that. If your club is doing something special, having a walkathon or a runathon or something, I like walkathons, but invite the governor to come and be a part of that. That's a really nice thing to do. So especially those clubs that are close in your area. Randy, you're almost right in the middle of the district, so everybody can, he's close to everybody. So
Yeah, and I don't mind driving, so feel free to invite me.
Yeah, you say that now. You wait till you've been. You won't be saying that you don't mind driving. So anyway, so that's the information that we have tonight. That was the only other thing in the chapter 3 that didn't get covered. Connie had the other on the business meetings and the or the board meetings. I'm sorry, the board meetings and the regular club meetings. Again, if you have any questions, get a hold of Connie about that, or one of us can answer your question too. So, do you have any other questions then? Randy, how are they going to, you're just going to wait for another month or so before you start signing clubs up? Is that?
Yeah, I'm going to wait another 4 to 6 weeks, and then
Okay.
I'll probably start emailing people or calling people and doing it that way.
Great.
So,
Okay.
if there's no more questions, I'd like to make sure that we give Connie and Peggy a virtual applause. So,
Very sure.
yeah, and thanks for all the applause out there with the all hands.
For those of you that don't know it, at the bottom of your screen, you have reactions. You can, if you press on that, you'll see a clapping hand or a thumbs up.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll just close tonight. If you were at Pets in Kalamazoo and you heard the Rotary International President-elect Holger Knack that evening, he said a few words, which I kind of take to heart. He said, have fun, make friends, and help where you are needed. So if you could do that, that'd be awesome. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock for our last.
And the notice will go out after this meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Have a good one.
Oh.
That would be Clark. And I'm going to end the meeting.